We're going to kind of start this next section here, kind of called From the Heart. Keep eating, enjoy yourself. We just wanted to kind of make sure we had a little time here because we want to give Burt plenty of time to go through what Burt does, and that should be a fun. So I kind of ended with a little bit of this 100-year vision. It was kind of a fun process because when you start thinking about what's going to happen, for me, Pinnacle Wealth wasn't started, or I didn't get into the industry because I wanted to build something that I could sell and ride off into the sunset. That's not what it was about. I got into the industry, went through an incredibly difficult time financially. Early 80s, interest rates went way up, had a lot of money borrowed, and basically wound up losing a clothing business. And I vowed at that time if I could ever get in a position to where, because I was just young enough and arrogant enough to think, I'll just make more money. But I didn't plan. I had no plan other than we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And the farm crisis hit and things got really tough. So when I got in, it's like, it's not about me. It's about making sure no one else, if possible, at all possible, has to go through that kind of a difficult time financially. So that's kind of why the vision was always to help people improve their financial confidence so that they could have a life confidently enjoyed, okay? And chaos messes that up a lot. Been through plenty of it throughout my life, as I know a lot of you have as well. And it isn't always financial. We talk a lot about true wealth. Our mission as a group is to be the guide on the journey to true wealth. And true wealth, as we talk about it, is everything you have that money can't buy and death can't take away. Mm-hmm. That involves, now money makes it all work, right? If you want to be healthy, it takes money. If you're going to eat organically, it takes a lot of money. If you want to buy an exercise equipment, it takes money. If you want to be charitable and you want to give money away, it takes money. So money is woven through all this, so it's a key component of it, but there's much more to that. And these guys can attest to that. Chaos for me, the last 30 days, I had to have 3 kidney surgeries. And I tell you what, the markets were down. I don't like it when I look at my accounts. Very similar to all of yours. It's down. But at that moment, when you're having to go through that third one, you're like, I'll give all my money up. I just want to feel good, right? So chaos impacts a lot of different areas. Following a very, very dear family who has a granddaughter the same age as my granddaughter. We were celebrating birthdays on the same day. We were just celebrating a birthday. Their little girl has leukemia and may not make it through that. Tell you what, that's a whole different element of chaos, right? But I'm not meaning to poo-poo the markets because we're going to talk about that. But chaos comes in a lot of different ways. So that's why it was founded. It's about helping you navigate through these periods of time. So the last thing I wanted was when I decided, or I'm not able to do this anymore, that people need to be there to help you. So Ryan and Nick, they're part of that vision for the future. One of the things I wrote down was I wanted to have somebody in every decade of life, 20 and older. Okay, I didn't need a financial advisor at 10, although my youngest would have probably been pretty good at that. And we did. So you're in your
30s,
40s.
People usually think I'm older than him. I don't know why.
Ethan's in his 20s, Luke's in his 20s, Dean, you're in your 70s, I'm in my 60s. We're missing somebody in their 50s. So if you know of somebody who shares our core values, and you can also tell by this picture, we're desperately looking for a female advisor because we know that's important. Men and women think differently, right? So that's another piece that we want to fill out. But didn't advertise for it. How did our paths cross? You wanted to be an advisor since you were 2, right? Is that?
Oh, yeah, you bet. Yeah, if you'd asked me when I was a kid like those guys earlier, that's what I would have said. Be a financial advisor.
Sure.
I was in the nonprofit world for about 8 years, and as I guess I would say God kind of works, started to stir, didn't necessarily know, didn't think that was anything I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but I didn't know what in the world I wanted to do. And in a matter of probably months, honestly, was approached by 3 different organizations about getting into the financial services industry, and honestly, stiff-armed them. I had no interest in it whatsoever. 2 of the conversations I had it was all transaction stuff. It was sell this, quota this, all these different things, and that did not resonate with me one bit. I'm kind of a relationship guy, and all of a sudden, a mutual connection of ours, Verge DeYoung, got us connected, and he had kind of talked to me about this world as I had kind of confided in him, where we were at as a family and things like that, and so I'd be happy to go meet with Kevin. And but I said I don't have a whole lot of interest in what he does, but I'll meet with him. And we sat down and started to talk, and instead of hearing words that had to do with selling or things like that, I heard words like planning. I heard words like relationship. I heard words like purpose. I heard words like passion, and I heard this word true wealth. And I think what kind of hit me was when you defined or told me why you even named it Pinnacle Wealth, and you said that to you, the pinnacle of wealth is true wealth, and true wealth, which you defined earlier one way, that day you defined to me as the proper balance of your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, and your financials woven into all of that. Mm-hmm. And your job, you felt like, was to, one, find that for yourself, but two, help your relationships find that as well. And that hit me like upside the head like a brick, and that's what resonated with me. And so that kind of began the journey, I guess, of us trying to discover what that looked like. And 5 years later, here I am, I guess.
Yeah, you were a blessing in so many ways. Ryan, you were already in the industry, right? So how did our paths meet?
Yeah, I got into the industry in 2007, so I'm about like Kevin. When I decided to do something,
it's your fault.
It was my fault too. Mm-hmm. But I started my own company. I started with kind of a sales-based company. Decided that I had two choices. I could either get out of the industry because I really did not like the idea of people being transactions and feeling like I had to go and sell people products, or to stay in the industry and find a better way to do it. And so I tried to do that on my own, but over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, started to realize that I didn't have a plan as much as I wanted to help my clients to plan for their retirement. I didn't have a plan for my own clients if something happened to me. And so started a conversation with Nick a number of years ago, and Nick and I go back a long ways. Our families have known each other forever. He's a guy I love. We've worked together in the nonprofit world. I really felt called to get into this industry to help people to be better stewards of what they've been given. I really feel strongly that we're all given gifts, and we're going to be held responsible for how well we choose to use those gifts. And so ultimately finding other advisors who feel the same way you do, that you feel like you could trust to help your clients in the way that you feel you would in case something happens to you is a really difficult thing in this industry. And so I started talking to Nick. He's a guy I trusted long before either of us got into this industry. And he's a guy that ultimately, I love Kevin, the first time I met him, said, one of the things I look for when I'm looking for an advisor is this somebody that I would trust to manage my mom's money? I think it's a really good litmus test to say, okay, is this somebody who I would trust to do what's in the best interest of every one of my clients, because that's really important. Mm-hmm. And what I found I already trusted Nick, but I found that with Kevin as well, the more I got to know him. And just right along with what Nick said, these words like true wealth and bigger purpose and asking these big picture questions, it's what Kevin's passionate about, and it's what he's written books about, and it's something that we're passionate about as well, and we want to make sure that we are carrying on Kevin's legacy and serving clients and putting your needs before our own at all times, and it's something we're both excited to join.
And we're having a lot of fun doing it. Yeah. And again, that's too big a horn for such a small cow, but anyway, I do appreciate that. But it's great to have you guys here. It's awesome. I get more inspired for the future and knowing there are great people to continue on. But our theme for tonight is kind of finding your freedom in both chaos and calm. We're going to talk a little bit about chaos. We're going to share that over with Burt. Not to get real spiritual religion, because there's a lot of different beliefs and core beliefs, but I did want to talk a little bit about something. One of my favorite people was Zig Ziglar, okay? Zig Ziglar he would always say, your altitude is more determined by your attitude than your aptitude. I mean, that's really kind of colorful stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know what any of that means.
But he didn't know what it means. I'll explain it later.
Thank you.
But his other favorite one, which I liked, was he always said he got up every morning and he read the newspaper and he read the Bible. And he did that because he wanted to know what both sides were up to, what they were planning, right? And I thought that was kind of humorous. And of course, growing up in a very religious, spiritual house, my dad never wasted any minute to be teaching from that standpoint. And just to take a little bit of a sidetrack, and then we're going to bring it back, because again, it's going to sound like I'm going to have a sermon here real quick, but one of my favorite verses is James 1. Consider it pure joy whenever you encounter trials of various kinds. And the first time I read that, of course, then Dad always made me get the Greek dictionary out and look at each word, right? So, yeah, fun.
Didn't your dad always do that?
So anyway, consider, all right? Actually in the Greek, that's a mathematical term. And it's like 1 + 1. You're considering the outcome.
I bet you loved that with how much you love math.
I hated math.
Yeah.
But you had to consider it before the trial came, right? That's important because most of us don't think about the trial till we're in the middle of it. Now, the other one that I think was funny is pure joy. It's not like, whoop, whoop, got a trial. That's not what it is. The Greek word is actually peace, calm. So how do you consider it to be peace and calm when you're in the middle of a trial? You had to do that early, right? The next word that I loved is encounter. That word is fall into. So it's not like you can say, hey, I'm going to plan for this trial in 2022 of tough financial markets or 3 kidney stone surgeries or loss of a parent or whatever it may be. You're in the middle of it. Because if you could, it'd be easy. You just kind of go, okay, God, next Tuesday, 3 o'clock. No, I got to call Jim at 3. Make it 4 o'clock. Give me a trial. That'd be easy, right? Trial would come along, slam dunk, got it taken care of. It's not what happens. You fall into it. My last word that I really like is various kinds. Okay, the Greek word is pikilos, and it means multicolored. So I don't know if you've ever worked with a telephone company or seen when that box is open, all the colors. There are so many trials of different types that can come your way. And there's really only one other word that references pikilos in the scriptures. And if you want to know what that is, you got to come see me later. I'm not going to tell you what it is now. But
Cliffhanger.
Trials. This year we've got tough times in the markets. We've talked about how many times it is. On a side note, I was kind of taking blame for all the bad things that happen, but there's another side to that, really, and Burt will talk about that a little bit more. And that is, if I could, I would take absolutely every cent I have. I'd borrow every cent I could if I could put it back in the Dow Jones in 1987. It fell from 2,200 to 1,700. 26, well, a couple days, Friday was not a good day before that either. I feel really old knowing all that. Anyway, I would do that because we're pushing 30,000 now. It has had a sense of resiliency. So maybe what I've gone through tonight is to say, good things are coming, right? I'll let Burt tell us if that's what's going to happen or not. But anyway, so you got a poster in your office that I kind of love. I think one of the reasons it's in your office is or a picture, is because you got the only office wall big enough to hold that thing. It's massive, and it's Buffalo. Why Buffalo?
As a South Dakota state.
Yeah, no.
Well,
Understand.
I get so much flack for that.
You should.
Because as a jackrabbit, I can't tell you how many of my jackrabbit friends have given me heck for having a picture of a buffalo or a bison in my office.
My first
and
question.
I'm pretty sure I've been disowned by some. Maybe my family has disowned me. But so if it's in my office as a jackrabbit, it's got to mean something. And I guess the part I like about it, honestly, is it's a picture. It's a big old canvas of that was actually taken by a local photographer out in the Black Hills, and he was driving out in the Black Hills during a snowstorm, and he saw a herd of buffalo that were walking into the snowstorm, and he stopped and luckily had his camera and snapped a picture. I think he got 3 pictures, and one of them I got blown up and have in my office. And the part I like about it is I heard the story one time, comparing how buffalo handle storms compared to cattle. And cattle, what they'll do is they'll all huddle together when a storm is coming, and they'll do one of two things. One is they'll huddle together, they'll just kind of stick their heads down, and they'll just stay planted, or they'll try to outrun the storm. Both of those options is all they do is prolong the storm that's coming. Whereas the buffalo, they band together, they huddle together, they turn right into the storm, and they march directly into the storm for the purpose of making the storm pass faster than if they were trying to outrun it. And it just kind of hit me, there's two pieces of that I love. There's one. It's more powerful to be together than it is alone. But two, how many times in our life do we come up with a storm, and instead of burying our heads in the sand, what we need to do is turn and march right into it, face it head on, and when you do it together, it makes it all worth it. So that's really the reason I love it. Oh. I don't know if I've come up with that story because I have to have an excuse for having bison in my office, but
I just thought it was a pretty picture.
That's the part about it that I love.
Love it. Yeah. Ryan, I like your analogy, whitewater rafting. We've all been, all three of us have done that. I like to go sit by a lake because I'm not real fond of rough water, but I have been in them. So quick, just talk about.
Yeah, when we were talking about chaos and calm, I guess the picture in my mind was when I was 11 years old, I was on a baseball team that went out to Colorado, and we played in this tournament. We had a day off, and we all decided to go whitewater rafting. And so we're standing at the head of this river, and this guide, I remember being exhilarated. In my mind, I had pictures of Niagara Falls and us going on this raft over Niagara Falls. So I was really scared, but I was also really excited because I was an 11-year-old kid, and I certainly wasn't going to tell everybody I was nervous and scared. But as we were getting onto the boat, I remember how important the guide was for me as he was putting on the vest and showing us how to strap it on the right way, putting on the helmet, giving us the paddle and teaching us when we need to paddle and when we need to not, and teaching us all the directions, and even teaching us, hey, if you fall out, here's what you do. You turn and face your legs backwards. So, this is how you survive falling out of a raft. All those things are super important when you're scared that you're going to die on this journey. But to me, it was a good reminder, and I thought about it as financial advisors. We want to be better guides for you, knowing that believing that James 1 is true, that when we have trials that come, it's not an if, it's a when. To me, the river that we're getting on is the river of life. And unfortunately, I had the choice to get on and go whitewater rafting. We don't have the choice to get into life or not. When we're born, we're in the river, and there will be trials and tribulations. There will be rough water. So it's a matter of when, not if. And so why not be better prepared? And as guides, we want to be the guides who give you paddles and put on your helmet and help you to put your vest on and help you to navigate the storms better. And so we're committed to doing that as a firm. In the next year, we've committed to doing that with some workshops. We're going to give you some ideas on some opportunities you'll have to come. And really, we want to equip you with more tools to handle the waters that will come. We're not saying the market's going to tank in the next year. It may, and it may not. But we are saying you need to be prepared because the market will have major downturns. We just need to expect it.
Well, and the guy didn't give you a life preserver and a helmet at the rapids, right? He gave it to you before you even got in the boat. Yeah. And I want to just address that real briefly, and I come back. I want to hear a couple things, because the problem is when you're in the middle of the whitewater. My episode, somebody did go over, and he was an older gentleman. His eyes got bigger than the tables. I mean, they were massive, and it was like, I'm not going to survive this. And everybody on the boat forgot everything we knew. The guide's busy yelling at us, and one person calmly stood up and said, "Steve, look at me!" And we all did. It's like, okay, you're in charge here now, right? He took control. He helped us navigate. Within 2 seconds, he was back in the boat. Got him, grabbed him in, put him in there. And that just resonated with me because I forgot everything I was trained because the rapids took me off focus. So, and I'm amazed after all these years how many relationships where I'm the lead advisor on still don't have a plan. All we're really doing is managing their resources. And oftentimes those are the phone calls because I'm panicked, am I okay? And you know what? Honestly, I kind of got to say, I don't know. Here's where your investments are, and they're going to go higher. But with a plan, we have something we can point to and say, yeah, you're still on track even where the markets are. And that's really where you find your calm. So we have to get better at saying, you have to do a plan. because it will help us help you in these times of storm. And I liked your analogy too with what the guide does. I mean, when they're going to go into the rapids. So real quick and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's when you get on the river, there's going to be calm and there's going to be rapids, and you got to be able to enjoy the calm and be prepared for the rapids, and they're coming. And when we've done whitewater rafting trips as well, and one time we were kind of in the lodge, they were getting ready for the trip, and I heard the lead guide or whatever his job was talking to all the other guides, and they started talking about things like the volume of the river and the flow and all these different things, and you kind of listen to them talk, and you start to realize that they don't necessarily know the day they show up what storm is going to come or what the rapids are going to look like, because it's all determined on how high the river is that day or how fast it's flowing. And what they were talking about is how they were going to navigate certain rapids during that day, because if the river's high, they can take a different path than if it's low, and they have to avoid this rock or that rock or this swell or whatever it is. And so sitting there listening to them talking about that was extremely interesting, because you think that well, they just, whatever, they take you down the river, they do the same trip every time, and every time through the rapids is different. And so it's just, it hit me. It's like, that's exactly our heart and our goal. We don't know exactly what the rapids are going to look like. We know they're coming, but it's our job to kind of try to navigate, what's the flow, what's the volume, and to try to work people through and work our relationships through in as efficient and safe way as possible. But the rapids cannot be avoided. They're coming. It's how do we get through them in a safe and efficient way. And I just thought those conversations were interesting.
Well, those guides had been through the river a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I've seen too many of these things, and they don't get any more fun.
Yeah.
Actually, they become less and less fun because I'm older. A lot of the relationships that I have worked with are older. And, I think back to my dad. He'd always say, yeah, that's fine, son, but long term for me is tomorrow at 3,
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. It's not like I can show him a mountain chart of the last 75 years. He don't really care. And he said, that, I don't even buy green bananas anymore. I'm not going to be around to watch them ripen, right? So, yeah, he was my hero and a lot of fun quips. But anyway, the fun part about this is, having gone through this so many times, you may have some wisdom for navigating it, but you got to have youthful exuberance to create that balance. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk more about, in the future, we'll have more ways that you can get to know everybody in the organization a little better. We want to get to know you a little better as well, but we're going a little bit long. We probably got to get to Mr. White here real soon, because he's really the knowledge that we all lean towards. I first met Burt in 2007, as I said, went to LPL. It was a good decision to leave Waddell & Reed. They're no longer in business anymore. Their funds still are, but that was a good decision. But I got to meet Mr. White, and I was freaking out. I'm not kidding you. I had 20 years in the business. The market was tumbling, and I'd seen some strong currents, but not rapids like that. Show up, and again, his anaconda attack gave me a piece of calm. Great storyteller, one of my favorites. And Burt's known me since, I think his plane landed at 11. We've known each other a little bit longer than that. But anyway, it's an honor and a treat to have him here. He's going to probably get a little bit more into the statistics and some of those things, because he is Carson Partners' chief strategist. You can read a little bit more about his bio. I don't have anything fancy written for him, and I think he'll enjoy that I don't. So anyway, what we're going to also start asking in the future, and I'm challenged them as myself, why create wealth, right? That's the question we want to ask. Because your answers are going to be in one of two columns. That's what I found over the years. Either it is personal prosperity, I don't have it, and I want it. Or I have some, but I want more. Or personal responsibility. Big distinguishing difference between the two. Problem is, and we can work with anybody on that side, but a personal prosperity chaser will never find freedom, because everything they value is in the next number higher. Now, that's okay if that's their bent. The personal responsibility side says, I don't want to be a burden to society. I don't want to be a burden to others. I have a responsibility to manage funds in a stewardly way, and I want to make a difference. There's passions or purposes that are important to me, and I want to invest into those, and I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. Those people are on the journey to true wealth, and that's who we really rally behind. I'm not supposed to talk my book, but that's what it's all about. So anyway, that was my plug. I want you to give a very, very heartfelt Sioux Falls welcome to Mr. Burt White.